What if time isn't as stable as we think? What if, for reasons unknown, some people have accidentally stepped into the past, only to return with chilling evidence that something unexplainable happened? In tonight's video, we explore 3 bone-chilling, real-life encounters where ordinary people found themselves trapped in another era. These are not just stories. They are first-hand experiences that defy logic, shake our understanding of reality, and leave us with more questions than answers. I never considered myself the type to believe in supernatural occurrences. I'm a historian, a skeptic, someone who relies on cold, hard facts. But what happened to me in the summer of 2019 changed everything I thought I knew about reality. I was part of an archaeological dig in a remote region of Turkey. We were searching for remnants of an ancient city called Karish, rumored to have been lost to time around 300 BCE. One afternoon, I decided to explore an area of the ruins that hadn't been excavated yet. The air was thick with the scent of earth and stone as I wandered into what seemed to be an ancient passage, hidden behind a wall of loose rocks. My flashlight flickered as I stepped inside. Then, silence. Not just quiet, but absolute silence. No wind, no distant voices, not even the faintest echo of my own footsteps. And then I saw it. The ruins weren't ruins anymore. They were standing, pristine, alive, buzzing with people. I stumbled forward, my heart hammering. The sky was clearer than I had ever seen it. The buildings gleamed in the sunlight, and the people, dressed in flowing robes, their hair adorned with golden threads, walked past me as if I was one of them. I tried to speak to someone, a young woman carrying a basket of pomegranates. She looked at me, puzzled, as if I had just spoken gibberish. Before I could try again, I felt a sudden pull, like a rubber band snapping back. And just like that, I was back in the ruins. The entire thing had lasted maybe a few minutes, but when I checked my watch, 3 hours had passed. I ran back to the dig site, breathless. I told no one what had happened. But later that night, I reviewed the photos I had taken before stepping into the passage. And one of them made my stomach drop. It showed a city, intact, shining, alive. But that was impossible. Karish had been buried for over 2,000 years. It started with an old leather-bound book. I found it at an estate sale, buried under a pile of antique maps and yellowed newspapers. The moment I touched it, I felt an odd sense of familiarity, like I'd held it before. When I flipped through the pages, my breath caught in my throat. The handwriting was mine, but the dates? The entries were from 1781. The journal described the daily life of a man named Thomas Green, an ordinary citizen in colonial America. But the deeper I read, the more disturbing it became. The entries described events I knew about from history, down to specific conversations recorded in historical documents. The strangest part? The entries included details that had only recently been discovered by historians, things I had just been researching for a book I was writing. Then I reached the final entry. It was dated exactly 1 week from today. It read, "I must go now. I must find the man who does not belong." I felt sick. That night, I dreamed of old streets lit by lanterns, the scent of wood smoke and damp earth thick in the air. When I woke up, the journal was on my bedside table, open to a page I hadn't read yet. It said, "He has arrived." The next day, I blacked out. When I came to, I was standing on a cobblestone street, surrounded by people in 18th century clothing. A man with deep-set eyes stared at me from across the street, his expression knowing. I blinked, and I was back in my apartment. The journal was gone, but something was left in its place. A single quill pen, tipped in fresh ink. I was taking the last subway train of the night, exhausted after a long shift at work. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead as the train rattled through the tunnels. I was the only one in my car, or at least, I thought I was. As the train slowed for the next station, I noticed something strange. The platform outside looked wrong. Instead of the usual tiled walls and digital advertisements, I saw old wooden signs, gas lamps, and people dressed in 19th century clothing. I shook my head, thinking I must have dozed off. But as the doors slid open, a man in a top hat and long coat stepped onto the train. He looked right at me. "Miss, are you boarding or not?" he asked. I was too stunned to respond. The train doors stayed open longer than usual, as if waiting for me. Then I saw the name on the station sign. Broad Street, 1895. My breath caught in my throat. Broad Street Station had been demolished in 1953. I bolted for the doors, but just before I could step off, the train lurched forward. The man gave me a knowing smile before taking a seat across from me. "You shouldn't be here," he said softly. The lights flickered again, and suddenly I was back in my own time. The train pulled into my actual stop, and the man? He was gone. I ran home and searched for any records of Broad Street Station in 1895. That's when I found something chilling. A report from that very year about a mysterious woman who had appeared at the station out of nowhere, wearing strange, futuristic clothing. She had been confused, disoriented, and then, just as suddenly as she had arrived, she vanished. The report even described what she looked like. It was me.